Flamingo Cantina. How are y'all doing tonight? It is a bee sweating and I'm not freezing. That means it is the perfect 1 week of fall that we get in Texas. And it'll be winter in 2 weeks. No, I'm kidding. Tomorrow, right? Well, we've got a great meeting tonight. We have a special speaker, and we're going to talk about some special events. Lisa, did you want to go first tonight? Yeah, okay. So, what we're going to talk about first is, and I forgot to say, guys, let me interrupt myself. We're doing a giveaway tonight, so make sure you sign up for it at the table. It's a little package, it's a little gift bag, if you will. So we'll do that at the very end of the meeting. So what we're going to be talking about tonight first is going to be hemp regulation. You have an instructional video, but it's only like 2 hours long. So we've got the lovely give us the too long, didn't read version of it, although she read it all 160 pages. You better believe it. Lisa Pittman is the First Lady of Cannabis Law. Welcome.
Comment period for them. So notice comment. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So I'm just going to kind of go over some high level points and then you can just ask me questions. In the USDA rules that we were really hoping for, such as a uniform transport manifest so that people could drive through any state and have a QR code, something to scan or something like that to verify that hemp is inside. A few more main points is they're treating it still a little bit like marijuana in a way. I mean, they have the felony disqualifiers for getting an application. They have a testing limit where you can only have a certain amount of measure of the availability for what's called an acceptable THC hemp limit. And so if that measure is, let's say, 0.02%, and the rules even give an example. If your measure of variability is 0.02% and you're at 0.29%, then that puts you at 0.33%, then that's automatically marijuana. And anything that's automatically considered marijuana must be handled by either a DEA agent or a local law enforcement as specified by the state. So every state has to come up with its own plan. So even states like Colorado and Oregon and Kentucky that have already been growing marijuana under the 2014 Farm Bill, they have to tweak their plans and submit them to the USDA for approval. And the USDA will start taking those in a month. Texas was waiting to see what the USDA came out with before it put out its rules, but there's other states that weren't waiting on the USDA and have already gotten started. So I'll start with the USDA and then I'll talk a little bit about Texas. Not only to the state, but and what you're growing. They're not going to have a federal seed certification program because seeds perform differently in different states. There are a lot of testing requirements that are a little bit onerous and difficult for the farmers, and from what I understand, they require testing at points from 15 days prior to harvest when the THC may be at its highest level. And anyway, the testing must be done also by a lab that has a DEA registration, so that's kind of another obstacle. So they've got a lot of things in place here that are kind of going to make it difficult here, especially being so tight on that 0.3% or under. So that variability, it's really strict. So the disposal of hot crops, that's something that each state has to come up with their own plan. So Texas might decide to use a DPS trooper or some other type of authorized law enforcement instead of a DEA agent. So there is some wiggle room for each state to come up with its own plan, but the USDA has to approve of whatever the state comes up with. So one of the most, what I understand to be disappointing rules that they came out with is how they're going to test for the THC level, and it's this total THC method, and I'm not really that good at math or chemistry, so Daniel, are you out here? I'm just going to ask for some help on defining that, but anyway, there's two different ways. They went with Kentucky's method of how they measure the THC content, and it kind of has to do with the post-decarboxylation. I was going to read it to you. Anyway, I was just going to read it to you so maybe you would understand. Really, I want to hear what your questions are to see if something's addressed in the rules or not. For example, they don't address processors at all. Any kind of requirements that they need to meet, so that's kind of interesting. So they over and over and over throughout this bill, these draft rules, they treat it like marijuana. They have these marijuana-like punishments and law enforcement surrounding it, and they hammer over and over again if you're any little bit over 0.3%. They'll allow, if you have used your best farming practices and best efforts, if it goes up to 0.5%, and you can prove that you had a negligent state of mind, that you tried, then you might escape being convicted for having marijuana. But otherwise, they're very, very strict about it. So what questions do you have? Yes? Okay.
So I would like to know, does it address testing for pesticides, adulterants, or heavy metals?
Nope. just THC levels, all I seem to care about.
Does it address if you can smoke the cannabis flower or not?
Nope, it does not.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, yeah, she asked if it addressed whether you can smoke hemp or not. It does not. And on that, I'll just tell you about a federal court decision out of Indiana that held that it was unconstitutional to ban smokable hemp because the 2018 Farm Bill did not create different types of hemp. It just made hemp legal. So it wouldn't be fair for somebody driving through Indiana, for example, that was trying to ban it, if they had smokable hemp with them that was legal in one state, and then all of a sudden it was illegal in another state. But other states like South Carolina, North Carolina, a lot of the coincidentally tobacco states, they're all banning smokable hemp by statute with kind of what we call strained legal reasoning. And Jackson's first question was whether the regs address contaminants and pesticide testing, and they do not. They just address THC levels.
Now my last question was, will they address, or are they addressing human consumables, or are they leaving that up to the FDA?
They are not addressing human consumables, so the rules specifically retain authority, and the 2018 Farm Bill itself specifically retains FDA authority over consumable hemp products. And so it's the same thing in Texas. The Texas Department of Agriculture is formulating rules for licensing, for planting, all the way up to harvest. And then from post-harvest to inconsumable hemp product, the Department of State Health Services is going to formulate those rules. And they just held a public hearing on October 3rd, I believe, to take comments on that. And they are planning to have their rules ready by the spring and ready for adoption by the parent agency, Health and Human Services, as well. And so they're going to apply more testing requirements and probably things like the pesticides and contaminants and all of that. That's going to be addressed in Texas by the state health department, just like in some other states across the country. The state health departments are taking different stances on hemp CBD, whether you can have infused beverages or foods or not, like you can't ban it. In Texas, they've held so far that CBD is not a food adulterant, so you can infuse it into foods. Rules, but whenever they do put down the rules, I know that they're going to let you know here at NORML, and that there will be a chance to make your public comment to those rules. Yes?
So, the testing, does the farmer take it somewhere else, or the state comes actually to
has a DEA certification. And then that's another great point that Dave brought up about who can fit in the rules by either a DEA agent if it's hot, or by the farmer if it's not. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, and did they say anything about seeds, how the seeds will be controlled?
The rules just specifically said they're not creating a federal seed registry because seeds perform differently in different states. So individual states might come up with some registries, but yes, sir.
From my understanding, THCA is also being considered THC under the seed program.
Yes, that's what I was having trouble struggling to explain with the post-decarboxylation, and the method by which they are measuring that 0.3% is the more stringent, harsher, harder to meet method than just plain old 0.3 dry weight basis.
Because pretty much if you had like right at 0.25 THC, but you have another 0.5 or 0.6 of THCA, they're adding them together and saying, no, you have 1%.
Right, and so that's going to pose a huge problem for the processors. I mean, the THC goes up. So it's kind of interesting that the rules didn't address extractors, processors at all on a state level, because they are going to be subject to RANDA's inspection and sampling and testing. And so that's probably where they're going to come in on that. Yes?
Does it address how they track the licensed plots that are growing?
Yes, and another thing that so the question was, do the rules address where the hemp is grown? And yes, you have to give GPS coordinates of where it's grown. Default hemp application program for states that don't have one, such as Idaho. You know, it's kind of like a hell no, we're not going to let this be legal state. And so farmers there will be able to grow under the default USDA rules.
And so could Texas farmers theoretically apply to the USDA while they're waiting for Texas regs?
Well, theoretically, I guess, but they're not going to take any applications until for another 30 days. And so by then we'll have the Texas rules published in the register, hopefully. And I mean, by then the wheels will be in motion in Texas, and you'll want to comply with Texas law and get a license in accordance with Texas law. Any other questions? Any questions about Texas or any other states?
Is this the one you wanted to know?
Okay. Well, thanks very much.
Actually, I got one question.
Rules if you want to look
I
at
got
them.
one more question, right?
Yeah.
What would happen to all of these rules if we legalized marijuana at the federal level?
That's a really good question. I mean, there's an argument that it's not even constitutional to treat two different classes of people differently for growing the same plant. So, yes, probably.
And also, is it possible that, like, the repeal of prohibition and specifically the use of the term intoxicating liquids could apply to anything infused with THC or CBD?
That's possible, but we're still waiting on the FDA to weigh in on regulations for hemp CBD rules. So they've already held a couple of public hearings on that. Mitch McConnell has requested that they give a status report in 90 days, to see draft rules in 120 days. So the FDA right now has purview over that and is going to speak to things like that. Yes, sir.
I have another question.
Based on the number of medications that have been taken off of because bad things are happening to other people on this medication, not that much. Yes?
So, does the extraction lab and an analytical diagnostic lab, can they be under the same entity?
The question was, can an extraction lab and a testing lab be under the same entity? The answer is probably yes, but as an attorney, I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend that you separate different activities into different companies, because if something happens to one of your companies, you don't want the other part of your company affected or harassed, so.
Yes.
to go over, there is a link where you can find all of those rules online through the Texas NORML website as well. But Lisa will be around for a little bit if you have a second to chat with her. She is really knowledgeable. She practices law not only in Texas but also in Colorado. So she's worked a lot with the legal state laws and kind of understands that. Next, we're going to have up Mr. David Bass to talk about our exciting Veteran Day weekend coming up.
Hello. So I'm David Bass. I'm the Director of Veterans Outreach for Texas NORML. And we veterans, Texas Veterans for Medical Marijuana, and our new organization in Texas, Veterans for Natural Rights Texas. We are veterans, empowering veterans to heal and speak for justice. That's what we do. I would like for all of our veterans tonight to please stand up and let's give our veterans a good round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So the other thing we veterans are doing is we engage in civil disobedience in Texas. And as veterans, we don't like to break the law. We don't, you know, we prefer that we don't break the law. But we also know that our country was founded on civil disobedience when our forefathers believed that the King of Britain was imposing unjust laws on the colonies, and they refused to obey unjust laws. Texas, our state, was founded on civil disobedience when some Texans decided that the laws of Mexico were unjust, and so they refused to obey those laws. Slavery was ended in the United States because people refused to obey laws that supported slavery. And so we veterans are not ashamed to engage in civil disobedience in the state of Texas. We're proud that we're fighting against these unjust laws, and we'll keep committing this crime of using a plant that was given to us by God. And so Texans have been resisting this unjust law for a very long time. Where's Bill Norton? There's Bill Norton. He founded Texas NORML. Bill's an old Texas rebel. He resists unjust law. So here's the SITREP, Situation Report of our Veterans Day weekend. And so we are going to march in the New Braunfels Veterans Day Parade this Saturday, the 9th. And we're going to carry our Veterans for Natural Rights Texas banner. And I appreciate you, Texas NORML, and Jax getting us a brand new Texas Veterans for Medical Marijuana banner. So our other one was worn out. We used it since 2015. I still have it now. But Jack's got us a brand new banner, and the first time we'll display it will be in New Braunfels this Saturday. So we will march with two banners, being our Texas banner and Texas Veterans for Medical Marijuana banner. And Senator Donna Campbell will be the featured speaker. And so we hope, if I can maneuver us correctly, to march right behind her. I hope if she's in the parade, riding in one of those cars, we're going to try to march right behind Donna Campbell if we can get ourselves up there. And then the way this parade works is halfway through the parade, they stop at a plaza in New Braunfels, and that's where the speeches are made. And so I'm going to scout it out Friday, and our objective on Friday is when Donna Campbell is speaking, we're going to maneuver to her flanks with our banners so that all of the photographs and the media coverage will show us standing right there behind on the camera.
Oh my God, yes.
So that's the plan, and we'll see if we can execute that. Shots in New Braunfels after the parade. They're big supporters of veterans, and they're a friendly place. So come see us in the New Braunfels parade. If you're a veteran, come march with us, and then meet us over at Double Shots for the social after the parade. And then on Monday, we're going to march in the Austin Veterans Day parade again, which I'm very happy about, because those fuckers kicked us out 2 years ago. Yes, they did. We marched for 2 years. Texas Veterans for Medical Marijuana marched in the Austin Veterans Day. Vietnam veterans, Cold War veterans, formed a committee to take over the parade because it's so big. 20,000 people show up to the Veterans Day parade. And these guys are old school veterans, and they don't want to hear the word marijuana, and they don't want to see our banner in their parade, so they defined us as a political organization and kicked us out. And so I went and appealed, and they denied my appeal, so we did not get to march last year. But this year, Veterans for Natural Rights Texas applied to march. And Andy, the executive director, did not use the word marijuana in his application. And that's fair too, because Texas Veterans for Medical Marijuana, we are totally 100% focused on medical marijuana. That's our focus. But VNR Texas is focused on holistic healing for veterans. And so, for VNR Texas, cannabis is an important aspect of healing, but VNR Texas also promotes, how do I say this word? I've been practicing it. Entheogenic medicine, which is psychedelics, right? And so many veterans are using psychedelics, and it's very effective for deep healing. And so VNR Texas also promotes things like equine therapy, yoga, and so we're very excited about the message that VNR Texas is able to bring to the veteran community. And so VNR Texas was approved to march in the parade, and so all of us veterans will be in the parade marching with the VNR Texas banner. And then when the parade's over, we're going to unroll the Texas Veterans for Medical Marijuana banner and take our pics in front of the Capitol. And then Governor Abbott, it's usually him, he presides over the big, it's a fantastic veterans ceremony there outside the Capitol. If you've never been to it, it's really moving, it's really, really wonderful. But what we're going to do after we take photographs at the end of the march is we're going to, again, maneuver ourselves over there under that big tree with our banners and just spend a little time there hanging out with our banners so that all the dignitaries and legislators who are showing up for that ceremony will see us over there under the tree with our banners. We're not going to make a big scene or say anything. We're just going to be there with the banners. So that's what we do as veterans. We carry this message. We do it in a common sense manner, but we refuse to back down. And I'm proud to be a member of Texas NORML. I'm proud to work with VNR Texas, and I'm proud to be a Texas veteran for medical marijuana. Thank you.
So we're going to be in a new parade, which is really exciting, and we figured out another way to still get visibility. Can't keep us down. All right, so after I go over election things, like this paper in my hand, I'm going to draw the winner of this gift bag. So if you haven't applied, this is the time now. So raise your hand if you voted on the 5th of November. All right. Raise your hand if you early voted. Okay. If you didn't vote, raise your hand. All right. It was no. Understand. And what about you?
I was on a cruise for early voting.
Oh, I was on a cruise, you know, I mean, of reasons to have that, you know, I like that one. Well, so for us in this area, it was a lot of propositions, but there was actually some special elections for a few House districts that have had their incumbents vacate the seats. And the two winners from this round will go to a runoff election in May of 2020. So I just wanted to give you guys a rundown of who won and what their positions are on marijuana. And that way, if you know people in the area, you can share that information with them. And it also gives you a good idea of how we might be hearing from some of the candidates for our upcoming primary election voter guide. That'll be coming out around the end of January 2020, and that way you can know where the candidates stand before you participate in the primary elections, which, I'm going to go on a tangent, everybody should know that in Texas, the primary elections are the most competitive elections you likely will get. This is a little bit of a rando year. We have a lot of incumbents not running. We have some more competitive races than normal. But typically, if you're wanting to see change, it's done at the primary level because of gerrymandering. Many districts have been gerrymandered to stay the political party that they are. So, we will have more competitive races, but these primary election guides will be really important if you're trying to decide between two Democrats or two Republicans that are running against this or for the same seat. District 28 was formerly filled by Representative John Zerwas, who is a doctor and a Republican. And he, I forget why he resigned, but all of the voting centers reported that the only Democratic candidate, Elise Marquitz, got 39% of the vote. And Gary Gates, the Republican, was the runner-up at 28%. So out of all of the runners, they pick the top two if it's within a certain point spread, and they move on to the next round. Sounds kind of like a football league, like kind of playoff game thing or something. So Gary Gates, the Republican, didn't actually respond to the survey, but Elise did, and she supports decriminalizing small amounts of marijuana. She supports expanding medical access, especially in conjunction with appropriate medical policies. And she also supports the legalization of adult use. So that's good. We know that that person supports cannabis in all kinds of ways. And then you've got House District 100, Representative Eric Johnson, who was a Democrat, actually was elected to become Dallas mayor. So this is in the Dallas area. The runoff was actually, let's see, it's going to be between two different Democrats apparently. It was an all-Democrat race, and Lorraine, and I might say this name really wrong, and I apologize, but Birabil and James Armstrong came out on top. Only James responded. He offered some lengthy responses to the form, so I'm not going to read all of them, but the answer is yes. But you can read his dissertation on it online, okay? And then district, and it's House District 148. Representative Jessica Farrar, the Democrat, was there. She's not now. There were 15 candidates in this race. Wow. And, y'all, all of them like marijuana. Every single one. Like, they did a town hall and everybody's like, yeah, it's good. Yeah, let's change the law. But the interesting thing is that it's actually a Republican, that's Anna Eastman, and the Republican is Luis Lorota. And let me just say, I actually know Louis. He is the Republican, and he works with Republicans Against Marijuana Prohibition.
Great guy, former vet as well.
Former vet as well. So this is not an endorsement from Texas NORML. I'm just simply saying he comes down to the Capitol and advocates for this. So if you know people in Houston, let them know. That's it. It was only 3 races across this whole state that were affected by that. but we will again have another primary election in March. So Miss Betty, are we ready to do? So we've got this little goodie bag, and inside of it, would you like to? Oh, my Vanna White is amazing. ZZ Top, right? All right, so inside of it we have a glass bat from Grab Labs, a stash jar from 420 Science, and a, what is that called, a donut dugout or something? So you get 3 things in there. Adam, welcome back, you win! All right, well, thank you very much, Adam, for participating. Did you have something to add, Dave?
Hey, who is here for their very first Texas NORML event or meeting tonight? Raise your hand. All right, let's give them a big hand. Thank you. We're happy that you're joining the revolution. Welcome to the revolution. And we need you to join Texas NORML. It's wonderful if you come to our events. It's wonderful if you buy our merchandise. It's wonderful if you support our work, but what we really need you to do tonight is join Texas NORML and see Betty right over here. We have several levels of membership, and which membership gets Jamie's free lawyer service. So if you join as a freedom fighter, if you get arrested in Travis County, for possession of marijuana or some kind of marijuana-related offense, our legal counsel, Jamie Spencer, will defend you for free. Is purchasing some really good insurance, okay? It's a very good investment. And so if you live in Travis County and you use marijuana and you're not a member of Texas NORML, I recommend that you become a freedom fighter tonight, because Jamie is an excellent attorney who will keep you out of jail.
All right, shout out to Jamie. So, on that note, you guys, we are here the first Wednesday of every month. So, big round of applause from Flamingo, Cantina, and Angela, the whole crew, for always setting up early and making sure that they can have us here on Wednesdays. And I will see y'all in December. Until then, stay safe and enjoy your holiday season. Thanks, guys.